Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the American Mindgrind. My name is Jeff. I'm here with Eric and Jessica, and we figured we better get on and film before the whole world goes crazy. I guess we should start, of course, with probably the number one thing in the news that people are talking about, the situation over in Minnesota. Have you guys kept up with the George Floyd incident?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Craziness, really. This has been going on a lot, with police officers. And by the way, I just got to be clear here. No one involved here, I don't think, was African American. Everyone always refers to Black Americans as African Americans, but I can assure you, I know from the inside that they would prefer to be called Black American. And I think that's more politically correct. I hate when people use African American.
Why do you say that?
Well, because I've been in a relationship for 20 years with a Black American. She prefers it, so it's become our house rule, mostly.
Touché.
Because not every Black person's from Africa, probably, right?
Absolutely not. A lot of people have lived here, and their family, and their parents, and their parents' parents, and all that stuff. So I think a Black American is actually a little bit more accurate when it comes to these things, but they're becoming a lot more common, and events like this seem to be happening back to back, and the fallout from this has been absolutely crazy. So his name was George Floyd, right? Was that his name, Jeff?
Yeah. And the video, I'm sure everybody saw it, is just brutal. I mean, the guy has him completely pinned down. He's not resisting arrest from any of the video that I was able to see. And, he's asking, I can't breathe. The people filming are like, officer, he's about to pass out, like he's had it. And then when they said that to him, you can see he puts even more weight forward. Did you see the video, Jess?
No, I read the article, and just from the picture alone, I just cannot watch that stuff because of how disturbing it is. It's not because because I'm naive or I just don't want to see that, any harm doing, especially because my brother's a cop. He's not that kind of a cop, obviously, but, I don't like seeing people harmed, and especially, obviously, he passed away later on. I don't like seeing any sort of discrimination going on or any of that kind of stuff. So no, I haven't watched it, and I don't want to.
You don't blame you. You don't want it in your brain. Did you see it, Eric?
Yeah, I watched it just for purposes of doing the show and stuff like that. But I got to rewind many, many years, Jeff. We've been talking about this for so many years. At the end of the day, you said, Jess, that your brother's a cop, right? He's a peace officer, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so when a police officer engages you, if you're Black American, white, Asian American, any type of American, if it's in a vehicle, you're supposed to put your hands on 10 and 2, right? They tell you 10 and 2, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, okay? Mm-hmm. And be no threat to the officer. And I think if people would make the officer's job just a little bit better by being completely compliant from the jump, then these situations might not get out of hand the way they have been. That's for sure.
I agree. And I don't, obviously I didn't see the filming or the tape of it or anything. Did you see any of that where it was where they were coming up and they were actually arresting him? Or so was he being compliant?
Okay, it's a great question. And actually, it brings up a great point, right? There's always two sides to this story. It wasn't that an officer, yes, there you go. That's even more accurate, probably. But the officer, when he engaged him, he was sitting on the hood of his car. Strange, right? Mm-hmm. He had been called the call actually originated because he had tried to fence a $20 counterfeit bill in a convenience store in that neighborhood. That's the reason why the police were called out. Now, the vendor that operates that convenience store was under the impression that George did not know that was a counterfeit bill. But obviously he was under the influence. He was acting kind of bizarre. Was it overly violent in any way? Not that I saw. And my point is when you have somebody secured on the ground and they're asking you to get up because they just clearly can't breathe, and they're voicing this, you got to figure out a way to accommodate them, because the number one thing is this, I know as a peace officer, you're sworn in, to protect people and to try to decipher what's right and wrong. And it's a very difficult job, and there's tons of challenges involved.
Yeah. And from the screenshots that I've seen of it, he had his knee on his neck, which I know that's not right. I've seen cops or police officer or whatever with their knees on the back, maybe to cuff them. But after you've cuffed them, I mean, they're really probably not going to do much, right? So I don't understand that whole bit where he has him on his neck, especially the back of your neck, and yeah.
You got two officers were involved. What I thought they should do is secure the feet, secure the hands, and just let's figure out where we're at, and take an inventory of the whole event.
Well, even the people that witnessed it were saying, officer, you put him in the car. For God's sakes, man, put him in the car.
Yep.
So there's always more to the story than the headline, I like to say. And that's why I love our show, is because we bring that to you. So everybody is so upset by this. They wanted immediately to arrest the guy and hang him in the street, and they want justice immediately. Why? Because their emotions have a hard time with this. And I get it. They feel like they've got strikes against them. They feel like this is reoccurring. They feel like, the cops are out to get them. I get it. But logical people and people whose parents taught them how to not act on their emotions, they sit back and wait and see what happens before they pass judgment themselves. Even though they see right in front of them, this guy's guilty and he should be convicted of murder, in my opinion. And I think he will be. And the FBI was sent to investigate it. So that means not only is his head going to roll, but everybody involved. So here's the add on to the story. When you wait for details to come out, he had previous engagements with this guy. They worked together at I think a nightclub as security. And so they already had beef with each other. So this is more personal. So an attorney wants to look at this and know what we're going to arrest them for. They have to interview some people and find out if this was premeditated, and he used the badge as his way, then he's really in trouble. Other part of the story is that the leadership in Minnesota is horrible. It's been failing for a long time. And, this has been a long time coming. And these guys, these two cops, the one guy, the little pudgy guy standing there kind of watching the whole thing happen, they've been in trouble multiple times for misuse of the badge and situations like this. So everybody who allowed them to continue wearing the badge is in trouble as well. What I really don't like is people going on Facebook and saying all cops should die and, all cops are bad. And, they're fighting for racism. And it's the exact thing that people will accuse a black person. If one black person rapes, kills, and steals, then they all do. And that's just ignorant to say. So it's just as ignorant to say that because there's a couple bad cops out there, or maybe a lot more than a couple, that all cops are bad cops. I know so many great cops out there. And I mean, Jessica's brother's one.
Yeah.
Exactly. It brings up a great point, Jeff. But one thing I wanted to definitely discuss with you guys was every time something like this happens, then people decide that they need to hit the streets and compound the problem by looting their own neighborhoods, which I just never understand. We've been doing this show for many years. We've done so many stories about this type of stuff. Remember the cops that had to shoot the kid like 5 years ago 23 times? So these things happen all the time. But the good news is that they're saying that Donald Trump, the president, I don't support or not support any political person, but at the end of the day, he was very quick to say that he launched an investigation with the FBI and mobilized them to do an independent accounting of what happened. Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, immediately called for him to be fired and arrested for what he had saw on the video. So the government was being very quick to mobilize things and get to justice, right? So everyone was on the same page, but why hit the streets and destroy neighborhoods and loot businesses and all those things? The National Guard actually was deployed there. I think it was yesterday.
That's insane. Like, I completely agree. I don't understand why that happens. And especially, like, we had people protesting on our strip here in Vegas, which is crazy. That's a way to do it. If you want to get your voice out there and to be heard, all right, go out on the strip or wherever and protest. I get the protesting. I get it's our right. But to go and start setting buildings on fire and looting places, what is that going to do? That's going to do more harm than it does good. So I don't understand that. What about you, Jeff? Like, what's your take on it?
Well, I agree 100%. Two crimes don't make a right. So when I watch these people on TV, I just think, man, their parents didn't do a very good job raising them. I don't have kids, as you guys know, but if I did, I can't make their decisions for them, but they would be prepared to face situations like this where their emotions are just overrunning them. And they feel that as Americans, we say it all the time too, Eric, people hate to feel helpless. They want to feel like they can do something about it. That's why people wear masks for coronavirus, even though they know it's probably not helping. They want their feelings to feel like they're doing something to help in the crisis. And I understand those young kids out there throwing bottles and breaking windows, and they burnt down the police station. They burnt down a low-income housing unit. Can you imagine if Trump had sent people to burn down a low-income housing unit? They would want to hang him from the streets. But they can do it, right? It's okay for them to do it. So I hate the double negative. But I do like when I watch these YouTube videos and I see the older guys out there telling them, you guys, you're not helping. You're not helping. You're hurting. This isn't going to do anything. And, the younger ones look like they're listening to him, but they've got that frustration and that need to act. And there's a book I like called The Tipping Point. We've talked about it before. When these guys end up in jail and they're going to look back and be like, I wish I could go back to that one small moment in time where I decided not to start the police station on fire, So, sit back. Everything we want today is so quick. We want instant satisfaction. We got our cell phones that make our endorphins go off. It beeps and we have to run to it. We can't wait for even 10 seconds to see who beeped me. So when something like this happens, they want justice, and I get it, and I think there will be justice. I think he'll get murder in the first, if not the second. And I hope he spends the rest of his life in jail, if not the death penalty. I should have looked. I don't know if Minnesota has the death penalty, but they certainly should.
Well, I suspect that worst case scenario is probably a manslaughter situation, but he's dead to rights, guilty of it. I don't see any way out logistically when we talk about legal proceedings, how he can argue out of that one. It's clear he's got the advantage, you know what I mean? So at that point, he had kind of it's just a moot point. It's not going to end very well. That's for sure for him.
Yeah,
I suspect there'll be jail time.
It'll be interesting to follow it, and we'll follow it here on the show all the way through the court case. So while we're on the topic of racism, we might as well move to the Cooper versus Cooper situation in the park, huh, Eric?
Yep, in Central Park, for those of you who don't know, a birder, they call them birders, by the way, Jeff. People like to go out with the binoculars and look at birds, especially in Central Park. I guess this is a thing.
Did you see the bird?
So a guy was walking in park doing his birding thing, and a lady had a dog that was off the leash, and it was clearly posted that she was supposed to have the dog on a leash. So he had suggested to her, he asked her if she could secure the dog by putting it on the leash. Then she took that as an aggressive, egregious, offense to her. And she got on the phone with police and basically called it in that he was threatening her life and falsely accusing him of that, which is very slanderous, calling him an African-American man is trying to attack me and my dog. And I'm going to call the police and I'm going to stick the police on you, and using essentially the police department as a tool for her to go on the offensive against him. So anyway, the video itself, which is very disturbing, it shows her, kind of lifting her dog up off the ground and almost choking the dog out as she's on the phone frantically with police has been viewed 43.8 million times at the time of this filming of the show.
Crazy. And how long ago did it happen?
3 days ago, I believe. 3 days ago now.
Yeah. Okay.
Jessica, are you a birder? Have you done much birding in your life?
I mean, I love birds, but I've never, used that for my free time with some binoculars. No.
No, me neither.
My point is, Jeff, is that people are so hypersensitive these days, and you're in isolation all the time. And when you come out of isolation, everything seems like so sensitive. And maybe if this had happened prior to the pandemic and us being self-isolated so much, then maybe it would have been communicated a lot differently and wouldn't have had to get to this level. The lady lost her job with a firm in New York City. Her life is essentially just ruined currently. She's looked upon as one of the biggest racists on earth, you know what I mean? So what's your thoughts on that? This isolation and kind of this disconnect on how to kind of, integrate back into society as we roll out phase 2 and get a little closer to a little bit of a normal life.
Mentally, you think people are kind of half nuts now? Is that what you're saying?
I think people are really hypersensitive, and when they have interactions with other people, there's a little bit of a disconnect. You talked about the cell phone. People are on it 24 hours a day, man, TikToking, all that stuff, and constant technology in their lives. And I make it a point every day, and I'm not sitting here preaching. I'm just saying, I really do. In my personal life, I make it a point to put down the cell phone and walk away from it for a couple hours. Some people think I'm ignoring their calls or something along those lines, but I literally don't have it physically on me. And I try to disconnect to it. I know for a fact that they suggest far less time than even I do on my technology, but I'm trying to make a concerted effort during this time to separate myself a little bit from that technology.
Yeah, it's killing the human brain. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. But the Doors, Jessica, I'm sure knows this song. The Doors tried to tell us that the people are strange, right? And I see it all the time. People have, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I think that in people I see, I've always had the ability to see people like within the person. And I think a lot of people out there have social challenges. I think there are different stages, maybe even of autism, that come out when people have to engage socially. So already we had that problem. You throw in the fact that people sit at home and watch Netflix all the time, and they're sitting there on their phones all the time, and then all of a sudden they're challenged, and there's a situation is like there was with these two people, and they don't know how to act. And the fact of the matter is, she's in the wrong. It's funny. It's so funny how many people blow up and get upset when they were in the wrong. You're supposed to have your dog on the leash. Sometimes I let my dog run off the leash, and then if somebody starts walking towards us, I get anxiety because I know deep down inside I'm breaking a rule, right? So yep. They have to deflect like this. None of this was my problem. Well, it was your problem, lady. If you would have had the dog on a leash, probably the guy wouldn't even said hi to you. He wouldn't even look at you because he's too busy looking at the little Tweety bird in the tree.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with this too. It's kind of crazy because I've actually been in the opposite, situation where I've had my dogs and people come over, or dogs will run up to my dogs and they're not on leashes, and maybe I might be throwing a ball for my dog to go fetch, but she has tunnel vision. And by the way, good reference on the Doors song. People are strange when you're a stranger. Thank you for adding that in. I mean, everyone feels like strangers nowadays too, especially because we have been locked up for so long and whatever. And I'm sure Central Park has been closed. I know little parks around here you can walk and whatnot, but she's in the wrong. She has her dog off the leash, and if she starts going off on this guy, she probably had all this pent up emotion or rage or whatever it may be. And even if she doesn't have autism, or even if she doesn't have anything mentally wrong with her, it's just so wrong. And people are extremely sensitive these days for anything, literally anything. You can't even go to a comedy show without being offended. stuff like that. So there's so many points of view on this. I think at the end of the day, yeah, you broke the rule, and now you're being caught on film. You're going to be put on social media. There's going to be a lot of consequences, just stuff like that. It's just, I don't know.
You got to watch what you say these days. Oh my goodness.
You really do. And I'm not saying about the racial stuff. Racial stuff, that's inappropriate, uncalled for. I don't think you should be doing that kind of stuff. But in the same premise, it's really kind of unnerving to see that go on in society still. It's like amplified 10 times more now. It's getting out of hand, I don't know.
Completely. And that's a great point also, is that we've come a long way in the last, say, 50, 60 years, but there's still clearly a long way to go. And I think that we look, there's new protocols in life and keeping everyone healthy and safe, right? And maybe when you leave your house, you have to think to yourself, I have to be patient. I have to be polite. I have to be in the here, in the now, be accountable, okay? And be the best you can be to make life easier for us collectively. Does that make sense, guys?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and it's part of, I like your background there, Eric, with the fruits and vegetable salad cut up there. I think that's a part of it. I saw a recent study that said 85% of the people in the United States are unhappy. They said they're miserable. And I think, it starts with at home, like we're talking about, your habits, like the cell phone and always on the news. And every time you turn on the news, it's negative, negative, negative. And then the commercials come on and the commercials are negative. It's all scare tactic, right? If you're scared, you're always going to come back and tune in tomorrow. And, then people are malnutritioned. So they're not eating the things that are on Eric's picture. So you tie all that into one ball and you turn them loose, and then you wonder why everyone's such a cuckoo bird these days. Well, there you go. It's
well, Jeff, you and I have had conversations about that, and I suspect that there's a bit of a sugar dependency overall for Americans and probably worldwide. And the stuff that you said back here, that's me up in my salad game, by the way, in the apocalypse. So I've been eating really well. We're a society that's super busy, right? When we're at full strength and we're out and about, and it's hard, this and that, and everyone says it's just more convenient to just roll up into a McDonald's and get your food that way. But luckily I've had the time to be able to prepare meals and eat real carefully and stuff, and I feel great, man. I feel terrific. And sugar, I think, makes people very impatient, and I think most people consume entirely too much sugar, and that's probably got a lot to do with why we have an obesity problem in America, and we have a diabetes problem, which is a far larger issue than COVID and the flu and the cold and all those other things that can kill us along the way.
Yeah, 100%. All added up. Sugar blocks signals in the brain. It's proven that it makes you cuckoo, and it's more addicting than cocaine. Trying to quit sugar.
Actually, I see studies where they compare it to heroin, and when you get off of it, you can suffer terrible headaches and all kinds of withdrawals. And and it happened to me a couple of years back. I used to do one of those energy drinks. I bartend here in town. I used to do an energy drink practically every shift, 4 days a week. Big, huge can, which I didn't know at the time was enough sugar for like 2 days. And that's probably why I was 320 pounds, but neither here nor there. Hindsight's 2020. But
it makes you a little high strung. So speaking of being high strung, Jessica, did you hear about Bryce Mitchel and what happened to him?
No, tell me.
Eric, fill us in on Bryce Mitchel, who he is and what happened.
Oh my God, Bryce Mitchel. Okay, so the UFC, obviously, as a result of the pandemic, they've been in the forefront of the sports world because they were the first major sport to come back, and they had fights, of course, without fans. So some of the characters that they've had come back and fight have been really interesting, but none is more interesting than Bryce Mitchel. Bryce Mitchel is a 24-year-old. He was on the Ultimate Fighter several years ago. He's 13-1 in the UFC, Jeff. So he's a bright, shining young star. And he's actually he's going to be the first fighter to wear camouflage pants. He'll be the only fighter in any weight division in the UFC to wear camouflage pants. He's been lobbying it for quite a while with Dana White. So anyway, he was one day he was putting a board up and he put a drill inside his pocket, an electric drill, and his drill cut his scrotum directly in half.
No.
Oh yeah.
How does that happen though if it's in his pocket?
Well, he admitted that he's a half-ass carpenter right off the bat, and not that smart. He's from Arkansas. He's just like a regular salt of the earth kind of guy. He really is quite a character. Bryce Mitchell is his name, and if you guys get a chance, you can look up Theo Vaughn, who's I guess a very popular podcaster. He has him on the show talking about that, among other things. So he cut his scrotum directly in half, and I guess juice fell out of his scrotum. He had to reverse the drill to get it out of his scrotum.
Oh no! And he did it himself?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why we always want to hire a professional, okay? In these situations.
Yeah, so you don't get your panties in a wad.
Go get your panties in a bunch.
Yes, would you say that this story is nuts?
Yeah, it's very nuts. And listen to this. Later on in the interview with Theo Vaughn, Bryce Mitchell says that, so he goes deer hunting, okay? And he puts food on his table, and he respects taking a deer and harvesting its meat, and he is responsible about it, okay? One way or another, they have to be controlled. Their populations have to be controlled. So we're not endorsing anything like this. But one day he was in a tree. He shot at a doe, missed it with an arrow. The doe fell back asleep. It was a rainy day. The leaves weren't making noise. He crept up on it, and he choked it. He rear naked choked it to death.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a trip, man. If you guys
at least he can go around and tell people that he's officially been drilled.
True. Just so you guys know,
we shouldn't make fun of the story. You know, it's pretty ballsy for him to come out and tell his story, so we gotta appreciate that.
All puns intended.
So his nickname is Thug Nasty. He's 13-1 in the UFC. He had the 2019 Submission of the Year, which is called the Twister, Jeff. I don't know if you know what that is or not, but he's executed the Twister twice to win fights, and it's only been executed 3 times in the history of the UFC in 25 years. He's a grappler. He's a grappler.
Aren't twisters like when your buddy reaches out and grabs your nipple and twists it?
That's a purple nurple.
Purple nurple, yeah. That twister.
Twister is the game you play with the spots, you know.
So he reversed the drill and untangled his nutsack, and he plumb near cut his pecker off, is what he said.
Oh my god.
Oh, this is one tough mofo. Like, he strangled a deer and killed it. He drilled through his.
Jess, when you see him, you're going to be shocked. He only weighs when he fights.
He's a lightweight or featherweight.
You're really close. He's featherweight. 145. So he fights at the 145. Probably walks around the street maybe like 160. 165. Wow. He probably cuts 10, 15 pounds before his fights. But you're not going to believe it when you see it. He's kind of a skinny guy. You wouldn't expect it from him, but he is a tough cookie, man. Very tough cookie.
That's cool. I mean, good for him if he can come out and talk about it, especially going on Theo Vaughn's podcast that he has. Because his podcast, he's ruthless too. So I like Theo Vaughn a lot. I met him a long time ago in LA, but that's a whole nother story.
Did you guys hear that Joe Rogan signed a $100 million deal with Spotify?
Yeah.
Doing what we do.
Where's our goddamn contract? We got 5 years experience here. 25 years total.
More than 5 years.
We've been doing it 20 years. And Jess, you've been with us for about 5-6 years now. Yeah. But did you guys know that Spotify stock, after they signed Joe Rogan for $100 million, rose in 1 week $3 billion, was it?
No
$3 billion. In equity share price, it went up $3 billion. I think it jumped $30, and they have hundreds of millions of shares. So they signed him for $100 million, and then the company increased its value $3 billion for having that content exclusive to them.
I wish I got on that stock.
It goes for like $190 a share.
I mean, who knew though that Joe Rogan was going to sign with them? You know, that was all probably exclusive. Because I saw an article come out after he had already signed and left, you know, Apple or whatever it was he was with before. So that's crazy.
It's a great product, by the way. I love my Spotify coming from a professional DJ. It's a great product, but a little rich for my blood. It was too expensive before they brought him on for me to buy. I guess you want to be, when they open, you want to buy that stock. But like you said, who would ever know? So do you guys know what a priest and a Christmas tree have in common?
Oh, Jesus. What would that be, Jeff?
The balls are just for decoration. Sorry, I can't get off the balls story.
I just need to throw in all these jokes before it's over.
But I learned from other people's mistakes. I won't be putting drills in my pocket anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Crazy story. Well, what else? You guys staying healthy and safe through this whole thing? We're about out of it, right?
Yeah, phase 2 just went into effect here in Vegas, so that's great. I thought it was hilarious that, you know, we're one of the only states that has to put in, you know, the governor or the mayor or whatever has to put in, hey, brothels are not allowed to be opened yet, you know, and adult entertainment and all that. So that's just kind of a funny, laughable thing when you think about it. But yeah, it's weird seeing restaurants open. Have you guys been out yet, or besides going to the grocery store? I've eaten out twice now, and it's been a little different, been a little weird, but you know, it's funny, they say, you know, you should wear your mask inside Walmart or wherever you're going to the grocery store with all these hundreds of people in there. But then like in a restaurant, you know, are you supposed to wear your mask inside, but then you're going to have to take it off to eat anyway, right? So it's just like a weird thing, and I'm not sure of all of the rules or what's acceptable. I mean, I've been wearing a mask everywhere just because it makes other people feel good and safe. Do I think it's going to do a whole lot? Maybe not. You know, I think it'll protect here and there from, you know, if I did have it or if there's any droplets or anything like that. But honestly, it has been a little weird, and but it's slowly coming back to normal, which I really do appreciate, seeing people out and about. And
so who decided that brothels are non-essential? Like, come on, man. Maybe there wouldn't be so many cuckoo birds out there running around if we'd bring back the brothel.
Hey, you can watch porn, okay? Watch porn.
That's true. Without driving.
It's like way cheaper too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, everyone knows the internet's for porn. I mean, come on. Where have you been? You're right though, Jess, and it's going to be weird for me too. I go back to work. Well, the bar's open today, right? On Friday.
Right.
My boss is kind of going to sit idle and observe for about a week or so. Plus, we're a gaming bar, and we're with Golden Entertainment. They're a pretty big company. Same as PT's Gold, the Stratosphere, and all that. So we're on their route for the slot machines. So they're turning on the machines, from what I understand, June 4th. So we're just going to kind of sit back. We also have to have employee workshops. If you're going to be in the food service industry, a lot of things are going to change, and we have to meet all these safety protocols so we can continue to operate safely for people. Mostly probably because we don't want to be culpable if we were to be a hotspot, or if we have an event there and somebody gets sick and then they use the tracer technology that's out there. And it's going to be really difficult, a lot more detail. Again, we talked about this about 10 minutes ago in the show. When you go back out to the bar, don't scream your order at me across the freaking bar. I'm just not going to react that way. I've got to make sure that whatever I'm serving you is clean and sanitized. Mm-hmm. Everything's going to slow down, guys, I think. And I think we have to think proactively here. When we do assume our lives is not going to be the same. That's the reality of this. Be more patient. Budget your time a little bit better. Show up early. Don't be last minute. These are things that, you know, my dad and my mom kind of instilled in me as a kid, and I kind of like to live, you know, think that I live that way. So be patient, be polite, and everything will go a lot better. But it's going to be so much different, guys.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it already is different. Our whole world has flipped upside down.
Yeah,
already. So
that's for sure. Well, guys, we want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching, and everyone who has subscribed to the channel. Please do so. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure you like it, and feel free to comment. We love keeping the conversation going until we're able to get on for the next week. Eric, Jess, good seeing you guys. Stay healthy and stay safe. And for
Good
God's
to
sake,
see you again, Jess.
be kind to each other.